Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Crystal?
Indeed, we do. Nice to be back in the
Very
studio.
nice.
We had a wonderful time on the road, though. Thank you to New York and Boston and everybody who came out. It was great. And we'll be posting some of those clips. So whether you're premium, that's already the full thing live from Boston, but we're going to post some of the clips later on as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Okay, in the show today, we got a whole bunch of Twitter stuff, new threads that came out, new Elon Musk tweets, new media reaction. We also have something that is just breaking really this morning. Apparently, Dave Chappelle brought Elon onto stage in San Francisco. It didn't go all that well. We have some exclusive video. Well, it's not exclusive to us, but some interesting video from inside the room. So we'll show you that. We also have some updates on that situation with the railroad workers. There's still a chance for Joe Biden to sign an executive order to give these workers the paid sick days that they deserve, as all workers do. So we will talk to you about that. We also have some updates on our friend Sam Bankman-Fried and whether or not he will be testifying here in D.C., potentially even this week. We also have some crazy things, horrific, tragic things that are going on at the World Cup. We've now had 2 journalists die suddenly, unexpected young guys. One of them, you all might remember, we covered this here. He had been turned away and actually detained for trying to wear a rainbow shirt into the World Cup. He ended up, like I said, dying suddenly. So we'll tell you everything that we know about that. But let's go ahead and jump in. We don't have any live shows to promote anymore for the moment, for the time being.
I don't have to say it anymore. It's nice.
So we'll get right into what's going on with Twitter.
Okay, let's start with the Twitter file. So the latest that we have here were 2 drops since Thursday, both from Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger, who works currently with Bari Weiss's The Free Press. We wanted to start and focus really in on the Matt Taibbi thread, and in particular, what I believe to be the most significant story that's come out really of the Twitter files so far. Let's put it up there on the screen. What was essentially revealed is that Yoel Roth, the former head of Trust and Safety, indicated in screenshots from Slack messages that he was having weekly confabs with federal law enforcement agencies, specifically the FBI, the DHS, and the Department of Justice. And in at least one known instance, let's put A4 up on the screen there, guys. The next one, what's very important is that, and in this one instance, we know that the FBI was actually sending reports about a pair of tweets to Twitter, specifically asking for them to be taken down. Now, the tweets in question, they certainly were bullshit. I mean, they were about some fake mail-in ballot claims from the 2020 election. However, and I think that this underscores the point, it is not the job of the FBI actually to police misinformation on Twitter or elsewhere. And they were clearly flagging tweets in a well-established operation, Crystal, with weekly meetings with Yoel Roth and with the head of Twitter, CEOs, and others that indicate then a pattern of trying to prepare the environment to get them to take down anything that they wanted. Now, remember also, this fits very neatly with the Mark Zuckerberg comments on Joe Rogan, in which he said that, well, you know, the FBI came to us. They told us some sort of like hack operation was coming. We thought that's what the Hunter Biden story was. We waited a couple of days. And then frankly, almost in an even more pernicious way, they just simply made it impossible to find on their platform while you could still technically click the link. They didn't go as far as Twitter. But when you put, I think, those two things together, look, did we know it? Yeah, we knew it. But to see it in stark writing, weekly messages in which he even alludes to his, quote, like secret meetings, like very special meetings, almost as if it's a joke. Actually, it's not a joke, and basically confirms something that we all knew, but now we have the proof right there in the pudding. And look, I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway from the Twitter files yet.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, he jokes about he's like, oh, I'm in favor of calendar transparency, but he doesn't want to put on his calendar literally every week, meeting with the FBI again for the 100th time.
Right.
I really want you all, however you feel about these Twitter files, however you feel about Elon Musk, however you feel about Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or Donald Trump or the deep state or any of this, I really want you to put aside your sort of ideological inclinations and imagine it's whatever president or whatever party you hate the most, who's in power. And the nefarious connection between the FBI and these social media companies that have so much power, and there is no transparency around how any of this is done. This is the first real, like, sort of real-time glimpse we've gotten into how all of these things ultimately operate. So, there's been a lot of debate about like, oh, well, they've shown a lot of right-wing examples, not about a lot of left-wing examples. To me, it really doesn't matter which ideological inclination is being censored. What matters is that this power exists. It's wholly unchecked, and it can be wielded against anyone, any idea, any organization at any time. And that's the thing, as Americans, regardless of what your ideology is, that's the thing that you should be deeply, deeply concerned about.
Yeah, and then also remember, I think what really underscores this is to take it out of the Twitter files themselves and look at the most recent example, the story that Ken Klippenstein broke here on our show about the truth cops, about the Department of Homeland Security flagging things as misinformation that include the withdrawal from Afghanistan as quote unquote misinformation. Look, and here's another Twitter file I'm waiting for. Okay, deplatforming the president, I get it. I think it was very important. I want to know a lot about COVID, about the initial lab leak blocks that were happening, who flagged that, what the ongoing meetings were between Dr. Fauci, the CDC, and others. Also turns out that Fauci's daughter actually worked for Twitter at a time during the pandemic. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't actually know that. Would have been an interesting act of journalism for somebody to flag that for us. We only know it because he was deposed in a lawsuit. So, that's actually, there's a lot happening here. And then furthermore, from the misinformation piece that Ken Klippenstein put out, it shows you also that they were flagging things which were directly bad politically for the Biden administration.
Right.
Like not just Afghanistan, but any sort of, not even questioning on the election, on Biden and criticism of him himself, flagging that to these social media companies. And we know in this instance that Twitter was, in some cases, flagging and taking things down on behalf of the DOJ and the FBI. I also think a lot of this, Crystal, stems back to the war on terror. And I think all of us have to be honest, me specifically.
That's a great point.
Look, I think a lot of us were okay with the idea that the FBI was working deeply with Twitter to like take down ISIS. And everyone was like, oh, that's a good thing. We're taking down these tweets. Well, it started to get real sketchy in 2016, 2017, when we were straight up going after American citizens and the FBI was basically working with them to essentially entrap them and put them in prison. Most people were fine with that, but people like Glenn and many other civil libertarians were like, you don't understand the apparatus which is being built here. And I think many of us need to admit that what happened there, while it seemed comfortable, those people and the illegal infrastructure that was set up against them, that has now come to be expanded in a way that nobody predicted.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of people, and I will include myself in this, who felt very uncomfortable with that power that was being claimed by the executive branch under the Bush administration, and felt a lot more comfy with it under Obama because I liked him better. And so I felt like, oh, well, this isn't as bad. And you sort of forget that they still retained those powers. Think about Obama and the drone strike list and all of those things. So this really isn't a partisan story because every president that we have had has basically claimed these powers and used them for their own benefit. So again, to use another sort of like counter example, right? These examples, yes, they focus on censorship predominantly of right-wing accounts, which again, I think you should care about because you should know that this power can be wielded against anyone at any time. But imagine what Trump could have done with these sorts of powers during the George Floyd protests and riots. And we know that there was, and this is again reporting from Ken Klippenstein, we know there was an effort within the deep state to sort of track and surveil Antifa activists. There were some takedowns of those accounts on Twitter as well. So again, if you don't find, the examples of libs of TikTok or whatever compelling, think about these powers being used by someone like Donald Trump that, is untrustworthy in terms of his sort of authoritarian tendencies and what someone with those inclinations could also do against their own ideological foes. Some of the reporting suggests that, again, this sort of like deep state apparatus, who they're going to go after, who they're going to track, who they're going to surveil, who they're going to consider enemies, some of that started to be set up under Trump, and then the Biden administration takes it and turns it towards the people that they see as political adversaries. That's why I think it's so important to take the ideology out of this and recognize that this sort of power, total lack of transparency, it really is an authoritarian type of system. And this evil collaboration between the government and these social media tech companies that have so much power in terms of our entire democratic infrastructure, everybody should be really troubled by this part. And I do think that this is, the most important piece that we've seen come out of it. It is confirming what the little glimpses that we've already gotten of the way that this collaboration happens. We already know that these tech companies also collaborate with other governments like Israel, for example. Israel's very active at flagging Palestinian activists that they think are out of bounds and need to be censored or taken down as well. So it really is an issue for us going forward as a society. There's just no doubt about it.
Let that be the takeaway. And look, it also shows you this is going on at all the other social media companies. The only reason we know it is because Elon, spent $44 billion of his own money and apparently doesn't care necessarily about recouping that investment, although we'll see how that goes.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.